audience that I'm talking to. And so this evening I'm going to be speaking with older adults. I learned that I'll be with singles and married. And sexual related topics are also status sensitive. So you consider people who are married or people who are not married yet. You also consider men and women. Some have differences, in talking about this, talking about sexual discipline. So we're going to go into it this evening, and I hope that everyone will be blessed, whether you're a male, you're a female, you're single or married. You will have something to learn definitely this evening. All right, so let's get into it. Sexual discipline. Discipline is the ability to train oneself to do something by controlling one's behavior. It also means the ability to keep working at something otherwise difficult. Self-discipline and self-control are the same family. Self-control is a skill that is learned and practiced. Are you serious? So if we think that children do not know what sex is, then we're joking, we're playing, So we need to get this knowledge out the right way, because if you do not teach the right topics on sex, immorality, and if we do not, as Christians, begin to talk about these things, they will get the wrong knowledge about it. So what is sex? Sex is a physical activity between two people involving their sexual organs. It can also be defined as a treaty intercourse between a man and a woman. Who created sex, and what is sex for? Sex is not of the devil. God created sex. Sex is not a bad thing. It is created to consummate marriage and for reproduction. From the Garden of Eden, we can remember when God told Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit in the garden, in the middle of the garden, else they would die. What did the devil tell? That you will not surely die. So that's the way the devil twists what God has commanded. We also the commandment on Sabbath worship God on the 7th-day Sabbath. The devil has also come out to say you do a Sabbath. You can worship God any other day. So long as you're worshiping God, it can be a Sunday, it can be a Monday. The same thing the devil is doing with sex. God created sex to consummate marriage for married couples, but the devil is out there promoting that you do not have to wait till you're married till you have sex. I mean, if you feel it, you do it. If you feel like having sex, make yourself happy. Have sex, enjoy yourself. So the devil keeps promoting sexual immorality against the commandment of God. However, in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, Solomon said there that there is time for everything. There is time for everything. Imagine having fire. You know that fire, what fire can do. Fire in the gas burner can be used to cook. But once fire gets out of the gas burner, it can destroy families, it can destroy homes, it begins to destroy things. So the timing of sex matters. Sex is good, but only for marriage. Once it's done outside, it destroys people, it destroys home, it destroys destinies, it puts people in bondage. Okay, so one has to keep away from sex till till you're married. Alright, till the appropriate time. Sexual attractions are good. As human beings, we have sexual attractions. It's okay to have chemistry or feelings for the opposite sex. Okay, or be sexually attracted to someone. However, how you control that feeling matters a lot. Know when you are sexually attracted to somebody and resist the urge to feel such desires. Keep away from such person till you have control over your feelings. What is sexual immorality? Like I said earlier, the devil keeps twisting what God has commanded, God's instructions, and then people begin to engage in all kinds of sexual immoralities. The list goes on: pornography, masturbation, fornication, adultery, and then the new one on the block, LGBTQ. I don't know if we've heard of that. There's a community that promotes LGBTQ. In fact, they've added IA plus, and so many other things. What does LGBTQ stand for? L stands for lesbianism, G stands for gay, B bisexual, T transgender, Q queer, intersex, and asexual. See, it has gone beyond fornication between a man and a woman to even a woman and a woman, a man and a man, and even a human and an animal. The devil begins to create a lot of ideas and even promote these things. People can defend what they do. I mean, this is how you feel. This is what makes me okay. Even in fact, in the Western world right now, especially in the USA, people they promote, LGBTQ and other kinds of sexual immorality, even from childhood. You can, so long as know your sexual orientation. If you feel like you are more you're tilted towards a woman, then you can have sex with a woman. So we need to be aware of the vices of the devil, of the schemes of the devil. Sexual intercourse is very intimate. And that is why God has reserved it for marriage. Doctors say that there's an exchange of blood during sexual intimacy. Yes, isn't it? That shows how deep it is, how intimate sex is. In fact, I read something recently online where a man said a man transferred demons to a woman by having sex with her. Because the woman was possessed with demons through sex. After having that sexual intercourse, the next thing she saw was maggots all over her private parts and even to her body. Sexual intercourse is very intimate and deep, and one has to be careful about it. God knew what he was saying when he said that you should leave sexual activities for marriage. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 and 10, 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9 and 10, it says that, do you not know that sexual immoral people will not inherit the kingdom of God? It listed so many things there, so many vices there in 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9 and 10. One of it is sexual immorality. Those who are sexually immoral will not inherit the kingdom of God. If you go ahead to verse 16, it says, do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one body with her? He who is joined with the prostitute becomes one body with her. For as it is written, the two will become one flesh. Imagine having sexual intercourse with several people. Becoming one with several people. I don't know if people usually imagine these things. You become one flesh with the person you have sexual intercourse with. And that's why sometimes you see people actually behaving, they have behavioral problems. They don't know how they behave because they have taken in a lot of things from different people and begin to misbehave. Alright? Verse 18 says, flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexual immoral person sins against his own body. Flee from sexual immorality. That's what the Bible is saying here. And it goes ahead to say in verse 19, do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God, but you are not your own? You were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. We can go on and on. A lot of places in the Bible speaks against sexual immorality. In fact, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 3, one of the things that the Bible recorded that will happen in the last days is that people will lack self-control. People will lack self-control. People will no longer be able to control themselves. However they feel, they go about it. You see someone that you are attracted to, you go online, you see people, showing their private parts, showing sensitive parts of their body, dressing in provocative ways, and then, you just want to touch, you just want to do however you feel. You are not able to control yourself. That is what is going on these days, and one has to be careful about it. We need to learn how to control ourselves. We need to learn sexual discipline. I wrote a book on how to attain sexual discipline, and I addressed boys, I addressed girls, I addressed single men, single women, I addressed married men and married women. So I'm going to begin by talking on this general principles to attain sexual discipline. General principles, what one can do in order to attain sexual discipline. Number one, you need to know the consequences of sexual immorality. Know the consequences, like sexual addiction. Like I said earlier, it's pleasure-based habits creates dopamine in the brain, and it becomes difficult for one to move away from or stop it because of how pleasurable it is. So, sexual immorality can lead to sexual addiction, can also lead to one having sexually transmitted disease or infection, can also lead to unwanted pregnancies. It can also lead to unrealistic sexual demands when one has engaged in a lot of sexual activities with people. Then you get married, you begin to demand for all kinds of sexual styles and sexual habits that one has picked up. Begin to demand them from your partner because of sexual immorality that you have engaged in the past. Pornography too. You watch things, you watch blue films, pornography, and then you begin to demand for those things from the person, from your partner or your spouse. One has to also know the benefits of sexual discipline. What are the oneself? It builds trust in relationships. It builds self-value, self-esteem. It builds okay. Someone said stop sharing. I think that is distracting. Mr. Dewusi, what you were sharing seemed to be distracting you. Alright, so know the benefits of sexual discipline. It builds self-value, self-esteem as well. Alright. Number two, replace negative habits with positive habits. If you have negative habits, it's not enough that you stop it. You need to replace it with positive habits and keep on, engaging in those positive habits, like watching gospel movies, listening to gospel music, listening to inspirational talks, engaging in exercise, sporting activities, reading good books, reading the Bible, engaging in those positive habits will help to replace those negative habits. Number three, get busy. Do not stay idle. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. Keep yourself busy with positive activities. Read a book, sleep if you have absolutely nothing to do. Because once someone is idle, that's when ideas begin to get into your head. Alright? Viktor Frankl says that when a man can't find a deep sense of meaning, he distracts himself with pleasure. One has to find a purpose, find what to do, find something doing, find something you're passionate about and engage in it. Because once one is, idle, begin to engage in it promotes sexual immorality, it promotes, negative habits. Number four, have an accountability partner. Have someone that can check on you, can tell you what you're doing is wrong, what are you doing, this person you're relating with is not good for you, you can get it, what are you doing on your phone. Someone that is an accountability partner, someone that can hold you accountable to what you do. It can be a pastor, it can be a mentor, it can be someone you look up to, a coach. Number five, be intentional about what you let into your mind. Daily feed your mind with the right things. Never say it does not matter what I watch or what I listen to. It matters a great deal. The eyes and the ears are pathways to the heart. In fact, Proverbs 4 verse 23 says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life. This scripture implies that whatever we allow into our hearts, if not examined and evaluated properly, will undoubtedly be expressed in our lives and our actions in positive or negative ways. Number six, dress decently. You reflect what you wear. Dress the way you want to be addressed. Revealing sensitive parts of your body, which is what is in vogue now, is not good. It's likely to arouse one sexually. That is why there's a lot of sexual perversion in our society. People will say, how I dress doesn't matter. I mean, that's just my dress. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. it can arouse, sexual feelings. It can cause one to engage in sexual immoral habits. If you want to stay sexually disciplined, dress appropriately. It's not just for females that reveal their cleavages or their thighs, and it's also about guys too who reveal their six packs, their chest. Some of these things arouses the other the opposite gender, arousing them sexually. So one has to be careful the way you dress. Be cautious about how you dress. All right. Number seven, social media. Be mindful of how you use social media, what you do on the internet. Filter the information you see. Social media or the internet, of course, uses algorithm of activities of user to determine what to be shown to users. I don't know if you have computer experts here.
Yeah.
I think they will agree with me that internet uses algorithms of activities of user to determine what to be shown to that user. If you usually type on internet, pornography, you want to see blue films, you want to see a sexual style, that is what will be shown to you when you go on social media, when you go to the internet. For example, lately I've been searching for hair stuffs for my children, for my daughters, good hair creams, good hair products. And then when I go on social media, especially Facebook, I begin to see ads on hair products for children. And I'm like, I don't know how I got all of this. In fact, I think recently I noticed that sometimes when I discuss something, I begin to see that ad on Facebook or Instagram. I begin to see those things. I don't know. Computer experts will have to explain these things. But one has to be careful what you do on the internet, because that's what will keep, that's what will keep coming to your face. That's what will be shown on the internet. And once you see things that you do not subscribe to, things that are not of that does not align with your values or principles, remove it immediately. Don't engage in it, because once you begin to read something that you're not supposed to be reading, or begin to click on something you shouldn't watch, you begin to see those things on and on. So we need to be careful what we do on social media. Number 8, maintain personal boundaries. Personal boundaries is respect for someone's body space. Don't touch someone in sensitive areas without their consent. In fact, I tell my children, if you ask them what is personal boundaries, they can even tell you what personal boundaries is. The personal boundaries is respect for someone's body space. Before you hug a person, ask the person for consent. Can I hug you? Can I kiss you? Can I give you a pet? Do not force yourself on somebody. That's what usually happens. People do not respect people. You get into someone's space without their consent. It leads to sexual harassment. Respect someone's body space. Alright, seek people's consent before. And when you say no, it's okay. It's okay for someone to say no to you. Do not get angry about it. Take a deep breath and walk away. Say, okay. Alright. Another thing that we should consider also is exercise. Exercise is number 9. Exercise is a healthy way to control sexual urges and manage emotions. Jogging, running, walking briskly, playing football and other sports help one to control sexual urges and manage emotions. Okay, number 10, watch and pray. Prayer evokes strength to overcome sexual temptations. It can never be overemphasized, the need for prayer in order to stay sexually pure or faithful. Not just praying, but watching as well, keeping guard, being cautious about what we do. Okay? Right now I'll go to my book so I can address single men, single women, married men and married women. In a few minutes I should be done. Alright? How to attain sexual discipline, principles for single men. That's what we're going to be talking about now. Right? Alright, principles for single men. Have a principle. Have a principle. Be focused on your work. Principles for single men. Number 1, be focused on your work. Before God gave Eve to Adam, He gave him work to do, to take care of the garden, to name the animals. It was while he was at it that God made him a helpmate. So you need to be involved in your work. Before you find a woman who will join you in improving your work, get busy, get focused on your work, get focused on your purpose in life. Find out what your purpose is, find out what you need to be doing, before you begin to look for a woman. These days you see anybody just looking for a woman to sleep around with, not actually marriage. But once you begin, first focus on the work you need to do, get busy doing something, then you can look for a woman who will complement you, who you will get married to. Number 2, have a principle. Have a principle on sex. Having a principle on sex is important, because if you do not stand for something, what will happen? You fall for anything. So at this stage of your life as a single man, you need to have your stance on sensitive topics, including sex. For example, my girlfriend is not my wife. Your girlfriend is not your wife. Okay? Your fiancé is not your wife. People begin to call their fiancé my wife. She's not your wife. Okay? You will only have sex with your wife, because sex was designed only for pleasure between married couples. Have your principle as a single man. Number 3, do not look at every female as a sex object. It is wrong to look at a female as a sex object, or a person to satisfy your sexual urges. That's not what the female is. That's not what we're created for. Look at the female as a sister. Look at her for her gift. Look at her for the purpose God has called her for, and for the impact she will make in her generation. She's far more than sex you are thinking about. Forget about sex. If it's possible, you should forget about sex and talk about her bright future. As a single man, I'm addressing single men now. Okay? Talk about her bright future. Then sex can come during marriage. Okay? Talk about other things. Number 4, seek help. If you have no control over your sexual urges, seek help. If you do not have control whenever you have sexual urges and you're ready to do anything with any girl to satisfy your sexual craving, then seek help from a sex therapist or any professional in that field. That's why we see people who engage in sexual harassment, not even minding that the person is young. The person can be 15 years, 14 years. In fact, we also hear people who sexually harass babies, children of 3 years, 4 years, because they do not have control of their sexual urges. They just go on. They feel like having sex. They just, take on whoever they see around. Okay, if you do not have control of your sexual urges, then seek help before you get married. Some persons feel that once they get married, all of those things will stop. No, do not give. It's not. In fact, you should not. Don't carry those baggages into marriage and give to your spouse. Deal with it first. Seek help of, if you do not have control over sexual urges before you get married. All right. Number 5. I think that's number 5. Have a mentor, a coach that guides bachelors from singlehood. Listen to godly men talking about singlehood, relationship, marriage. Once you listen to those persons, you can draw strength, from them as they teach. Develop a healthy habit for leisure. Whenever you're less busy and done with work, develop a healthy habit. It can be a passion like watching football, playing football, basketball, or sports. Other habits can be reading, writing, developing an idea, volunteering in an NGO. Okay? So when you are less busy, get a passion, get something that you'd love to do that is positive. Because if you leave that gap, the devil can begin to bring ideas to your head. Okay, that's why you see some young men, when they're done from work, they go clubbing, they go out, hanging out, around prostitutes. In fact, some persons even go as far as picking prostitutes just to satisfy themselves. Okay, so engage in positive habits once you're less busy. Something of leisure that is, positive. Another thing you should do as a single man is to fix your dates in the daytime. You have a date with your girlfriend or your fiance. It's good you fix such dates in the daytime. It can be in the evening, but make sure it's not in the night. The nighttime has that can send tempting ideas to one's head. And that's why you see people who, from their dates with their girlfriend or fiance, they go to a hotel or they go to the house and then something else happens. Sexual activities begin. So make sure that you fix your dates in the daytime and in an open place, so to avoid temptation. Those are some tips for single men. Some tips I would also give single women are: number one, focus on developing yourself. Do not get engrossed with the thoughts of who will marry me. Instead, get invigorated with pursuing your dreams. Okay, the desperation of marriage has gotten people to make a lot of mistakes, including sexual immorality, fornication. You see, people say, I thought he was going to marry me. He demanded for sex and I just had to give it to him. I really wanted him to marry me. I thought he was going to marry me. In fact, he promised me marriage and all of that. Because you become desperate. Do not get desperate. Instead, get busy pursuing your dreams, pursuing your goal, developing yourself, discovering yourself. If it's to get a degree, get a first degree. You can even get a second degree or third degree. Just get on developing yourself, getting a professional qualification, build that business you want to build, release the music album if you love to sing. The man who will marry you will find you. Alright? Number two, have a healthy self-esteem. Have confidence in your worth, in who you are, what you are, and what you can be. You are special, ladies. You are special and you are priceless. And you can reach any height you wish to get into. You wish to get. Have self-respect. Have self-value. Do not cave into any sweet-coated tongue. Okay, men have sweet mouth. Do not cave into sweet-coated tongue. Be clear on what you want. Be clear on what you're looking out for. Avoid assumptions. I thought he liked you. I thought he loved me. Avoid assumptions and know when a man is serious about you. Number three, know the qualities you are looking for in a man. Be clear on that point. Knowing the qualities you're looking for in a man will help you to sieve the men around you and know who you will accept as a friend and as a potential husband. Find out if your core values are compatible. If they're not, do not be pressured to accept. Some persons think that it's impossible to find a man who is sexually pure or who are sexually chaste, who have not engaged in sexual activities before. Are there people here who think that there are men who have never engaged in sexual activities? If you are, then I need to burst your bubbles. There are men who have kept themselves chaste. It's just that the society has made it, look like it's okay. I mean, a man's nature is to go out, have sex randomly, but that is not it. The commandment in the Word of God was for men and women. Okay, so if you know that what you're looking for is a man who is sexually chaste, then do not cave into that assumption that all men have had sex before. Okay, or all men can do without sex. So once they demand for sex, I give it to them. Know the qualities you are looking for and stick to it. Do not cave in. Do not be pressured to accept something that does not meet your core values. Number four, let your principles be known from the earliest time possible, preferably the first day. Let the man you intend to be in a relationship with know your stance on sex. No sex till marriage, and it's not negotiable. I mean, it's something I did. I told my man from the first day we met that we're not going to have sex till marriage. And he was okay with it. Some person might think that you were joking, and then they begin to try you. But then you have to stick to your principles. Let your principles be known, especially on the first day. Because if you do not let the man you're in a relationship with know your stance on sex, even from the beginning. It can be difficult to avoid temptations. When your mind, it might not, it becomes negotiable, you begin to compromise, and at the end of the day, you see yourself in sexual immorality. Okay, that way, once you let the man know your stance from the beginning, the man will choose to stay or leave, and you would also have reduced the temptations in the relationship. All right. Another point I would share with single ladies is to accept gifts with care. Be mindful of gifts and money that you collect from men. Some men have ulterior motives for spending on you. He may one day ask for sex. Most times when men are giving women something, most times, not all the time though, but most times when a man is gifting a woman something, there's an ulterior motive. Especially when there's some attractions involved. You may one day ask for sex, so be careful in accepting gifts from the opposite sex. As much as possible, refuse gifts from men who you sense have an attraction to you and you have no intention of being in a relationship with them. Okay? Some persons will say it doesn't matter, he gave it to me. But be careful, be mindful. Collecting gifts can be dangerous, especially when the person wants to get something else from you and you can sense it, but you collected and you're refusing, giving the person what he wants. Be careful about it. It can be you playing with fire. Alright, so quickly we'll go to married men. Principles that married men should consider. As a married man, have strict boundaries. You cannot be free with the opposite. You cannot just be free with the opposite sex. Set boundaries to avoid falling into temptation. For example, if a female comes to your office, make sure someone else is there, or you keep the door of your office open. In the institution I work in, I know a lot of people who have fallen into such temptation of admitting females to their offices, and then with the door locked, the AC is on, then temptations, ideas begin to get into your head, and a lot of things can happen. So to avoid such things, make sure that someone else is there. Make sure that the door is opened. All right. Number 2, do not send flirty messages to a female. While chatting with a familiar opposite sex, make it informally formal. Do not flirt with an opposite sex. When I say informally formal, it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be informal. Be in between, especially someone that you relate with. You see people who tell you, dear, my dear, calling pet names, using flirty words while chatting or texting the opposite sex. It is dangerous. Do not use flirty message. Do not send the opposite sex flirty messages. Do not pass comments that playfully insinuate sexual sentiments. Do not talk to another female with teasing affection. See your body, I like how you dress too. See shade. See figure 8, as a married man to a female, that is really wrong. Alright? Number 3, avoid the second look. You have seen an attractive lady, avoid the second lustful look at such a lady. I know that we have the eyes, we can see. You see a lady that looks, attractive, beautifully dressed, in fact, provocatively dressed, you've seen it, but avoid the second look. Avoid the second lustful look at such a lady. Do not dwell on such person. You've seen it. Make sure that you move your eyes, focus on something else. Avoid the second look. Like Job said in Job 31 verse 1, he says, I have made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a maid? Be careful, on what you look at and what you see. Number 4, break contact with your ex-girlfriends. Break up contact with old girlfriends. It's a habit that I've noticed that some married men still keep contact of their old girlfriends, and keep chatting them, texting them, keeping the lines of communication open. That can be dangerous. You may need to delete some numbers after marriage. That is not something bad. You may need to delete some numbers. You may need to unfollow some people on social media, you know, after you're married. This will show that you are responsible and committed to your marriage vow. All right. Number five. Number five. Never send lose. Never spend loose time with another female. Infidelity is not just about sex. It can also be emotional infidelity. Spending loose time with another female, virtually or physically, trying to know everything about her personal life, involving yourself in her private affairs, can get you emotionally attached to such a female and lead to many other types of infidelity. Okay? I do not know if you understand what I am saying, because some persons will feel like sexual infidelity is just, when you have sexual intercourse with somebody. But there's a progression. Most times it doesn't just get into sexual intercourse. The emotions are involved first. There's an emotional attachment to the person. There's you begin to think about the person, you begin to involve yourself in the person's affairs, and feelings begin to grow. And then once there is any opportunity, that calls for, that allows sexual activities, you see yourself falling. You're wondering, how did I get to this point? It's because you have already built, such feelings over time by, the way you talk with the person, chat with the person, and communicate. So don't spend loose time with another female. Don't spend, when I mean loose time, quality time. Don't spend quality time with another female as a married man. All right, talking something that is, informal. All right, number 6, stay sexually true to your wife. You have taken a vow before God and to your wife to be sexually faithful. Do not leave that vow to chance. Decide within yourself. Decide. Don't leave it to chance. Decide within yourself never to break that covenant. Let everyone around you know your stance on being faithful to your wife. It's not something common. You have friends, you might have people around you who feel like there's nothing wrong keeping a girlfriend and all, having a side chick. But decide within yourself and make your stance known. I want to be faithful to my wife, and that's it. Doesn't make you less of a man to be faithful to your wife. So let your stance be known. Stay sexually true to your wife. Stay true to the vow you have made. All right. Then if you have questions, I think you'll be allowed to ask at the end of this session. We address married women now. Principles for married women. Number 1, love your husband. Love everything about your husband, his weaknesses, his strengths, his failures, his wins. You married all of him. So love your husband. Remember, you married him, all of him, and not part of him. This is not to say that you encourage his weaknesses, but you love him despite his weaknesses. All right? Loving your husband will help you to stay true to your marriage. Number 2, be committed to your marriage. Being committed to your marriage will keep you focused on your husband and your relationship with him. Number 3, stop spending time with the opposite sex alone. Once married, you should stop hanging out with the opposite sex alone as much as possible. As much as possible. Even when it looks innocent. It's capable of arousing sexual attractions and feelings. The devil is very cunning. Can make some things look like there's nothing. There's some messages on my phone that I don't respond to. You don't have to respond to everything. I get lots of messages on my Facebook Messenger, that I share a lot of things on my social media handles. So I get messages all the time, but I don't respond to everything. I'm very cautious about it. So as a married woman, be careful about, spending time alone with opposite sex, whether virtually or physically. Be very careful about it. If it can arouse sexual attractions and feelings. Block contact of ex-lovers. Especially when you know that feelings are still there. Either the man or the woman still have feelings for each other. You need to, block such contact. Once you're married. Okay? Number 5, have a healthy sexual relationship with your husband. Having a healthy sexual relationship with your husband would prevent sexual immorality, would prevent adultery. Okay, sexual starvation can lead to sexual longing outside your home and adultery results. So as much as possible, make sure that the marriage bed is active, the other room is active. Okay, all right, because that prevents temptations from both ends. It's not just the man, from both ends. They have the man engaging in sexual in adultery or the woman. Make sure that the bed is not defiled, the bed is active, the husband and wife are sexually giving themselves their conjugal rights. All right. Number 6, keep the right friends. Everyone cannot be your friends. As a married woman, really, not everyone can be your friend, especially when you know such friends that are ones that don't mind hanging around different men, having boyfriends here and there, and do not share the same values as you do. Okay, be mindful of the people you keep as friends. People you begin to tell what happens in your marriage, and they begin to advise you. So you need to be selective. Have friends that share the same value with you. Have a friend that if I can actually call her and tell her I have this issue in my marriage. Why can I tell her some of the issues I have? Is because I know that she's not one that will tell me, I leave your husband or do this, don't do this. Your husband did, I don't like it. That your husband is mean. You need to, have the right friends. I know that once I tell her, the first thing that she will do is to pray with me. We begin to talk about it. You begin to tell me, allow the Holy Spirit to lead you. You need wisdom to go about this. Having the right friends helps a great deal, because friends can lead you to do the wrong things if about the friends you have. Number 6, I think that's the last one I'm going to share. Okay, be sensitive to sexual attractions. Be sensitive to sexual attractions. That's number 7. As a married woman, you cannot be naive around the opposite sex. Know when a man is sexually attracted to you and move back from such a person. If they focus too much on your physique and your body, that is a red alert. Be careful about such things. Okay, be sensitive to sexual attractions and keep away from it. Alright? That is it about married women. In conclusion, I don't know if there are questions, or do I go on to conclude before we talk about questions? Okay, so let's just conclude, and if there are questions, it can be moderated later. Alright, in conclusion, self-control or sexual discipline is more challenging to achieve as an adult than a young person. I don't know if everyone is still listening to me. Okay, self-control should be more challenging to achieve as an adult than a young person. If you have not practiced self-control or sexual discipline as a young person, it becomes difficult to achieve as an adult. But if you have practiced it, self-control, sexual discipline as a young person, it will be easier to achieve it as an adult. When people see elderly people, maybe an elderly man or woman frolicking about, and they say at his age or at her age, how can they, engage themselves in certain things? I smile because self-control is not age specific. It's something that is practiced. It's something that is constantly practiced, intentionally practiced, to be able to gain mastery of it. Let me also bring to knowledge that self-control is not handed over to a person as they graduate from theology school. Okay, don't be surprised that a man of God can lack self-control or lack sexual discipline. Self-control is also not achieved by prayer alone. It has to be worked on. It has to be worked on. Practice sexual discipline, self-control daily. Practice it in all your associations. Practice it in your speech. Practice it in all that you do in your relationships. And once we do that, God being by our side with prayer too, we'll be able to achieve sexual discipline. Let's not forget that we are God's children. Make sure that God is happy with whatever you do. Make sure that when you're praying to God, you are not carrying some baggage, of sin, in you. Of course, God forgives us, but do not make mockery of God's mercy. Keep yourself sexually faithful, sexually pure, obey God's command on sex in marriage. All right. Romans 12 verse 1 says, "I beseech you, therefore, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service." So, in ending this evening session, I beg us by the mercies of God that we live our lives as the children of God that we profess to be, in our words, in our thoughts, in our bodies, in our action. Our bodies are the temple of God. So let us live our lives as the Christians and children of God that we profess to be. God help us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Mrs. Deborah Ikonne. We thank you for what you have done tonight, this evening. It is quite applauding, and I believe everybody connected to today's lecture must have gained one or two things from it. This time around, I would like to moderate the question section. So it is time for all our listeners, both in Nigeria and even other African countries around, because I know people from Uganda, Kenya, and other parts of East African countries are connected. So equally, if you have a question, it's time for you to put it through to Mrs. Deborah Ikonne, as our time is equally fast. Yes, so it's time for question and answer. You can unmute yourself to ask your question, or you can just raise your hand. I can see a hand being raised up by Glory. Gloria. You can send it, or you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. So please, the floor is open for questions. Thank you very much as you do so. Okay. Go ahead, please, with your question. No. Don't go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Ma. I really appreciate your presentation this evening. But it's really enlightening, and I want to say the Lord will bless you for this. The truth is, this is really an issue that has to be addressed in this 21st century. I watched a clip of a little baby, let's say a girl, a little child between 3, 4, 5 years, went to the back of the school with a little child, same age with them, with the person, and then started kissing and all of that. Now, in our own present day, we have children around us, and cartoons are saturated with sexual objects, several things that are done through the media. Have all of these actions, stylishly, introduced into them. And children's mindset right now are being aroused untimely, just as Solomon said we shouldn't do. Love should not be aroused early. So how do we guard against this? Knowing fully well that our children should live a godly life. I'm talking about sexual education. How do we begin? When is it right for a family to begin sexual education for their children? And then for the second question, has to do with husband and wife. Imagine a man and a woman who got married, not knowing anything about sex. They were virgins. So how do you expect them to learn in the arts? Is it, you mentioned on the aspect of pornography? Yes, we shouldn't go into that. So what means can they take advantage of to learn how to best do this pleasurably between themselves? So those are the two questions I would love you to respond to.
By understanding themselves and I deal directly with children. And the world is so spoiled now that gender is one of the difficult issues we're dealing with now, whereby you see a lot of children identifying themselves as male while they are female, or identify themselves as female while they are male. And a lot of textbooks are pushing it into the curriculum and the system. Well, thank you for Africa, where we are in. We are still upholding to some things that are still very good and moral inclined. So, my question is, when you get in contact with such people or such children who are struggling with sexual identity, because where they are coming from, probably abroad, they've been taught that they can be anything. Being anything includes, if you're a boy, you can be a goat. And sexual identity becomes a problem. That's one of my questions. How do you get that child out of that? And secondly, when you are already into, when you're addicted into pornography or into other ways of satisfying your sexual urge, when you have met a counselor to speak you out of this, what else do you do? What else do you do? You have met a counselor has spoken to you about it, you have discussed about it, and you have even practiced ways, and it seems not working. What else do you do? Then the last question. When a lot of young people are around you, the reason why I'm using a lot of young people because I teach in a secondary school, and a lot of young people already are already deep into this topic we are talking about. Now we're even saying singles and adults. Dr. Ikonne, I will still call you back, please, ma, to speak to the young people one of these days. Probably physically, I will work with the institution I work with, so that I will invite you physically. But my question is, how do you get them, out of this? Because most of them are already way deep into this. Sorry to say, even more than the married people. Young people between the ages of 15 down to 12, they are way deep into this. And when you are having a conversation with them, you just shake your head and notice that they are already way deep into it. How do you help these young people? I am not an expert. I'm asking you who is an expert. And one of these days, by God's grace, will call you, Lord will call you to come speak to them directly, to come address them. But for now, how do we help them? That's my question. Okay, please, I'm seeing a hand. Please, you can go ahead with your question. It's quite difficult to get your name. So go ahead with your question. I'm seeing your hands up. And equally, I'm seeing low hands up. I don't know if you still have another question or was the first one the executive director asked. So please go ahead with your question.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Flow. Yes, we
All
can.
right, okay, cool. I want to appreciate Dr. Ikonne for that beautiful presentation. I wish physical, she deserves a standing ovation. Uh, I want to ask two questions. The first question is that for someone that is planning to get married, either the man or the woman, is it advisable? Yes, this person is addicted, but she has given her life to God or to Christ. Is it advisable for someone that has not done it before to get married to such person because of the fact that this person is ready into it, very active. The other person is not active. And they said marriage is about compatibility. Is it advisable to go into it? That is the question. Another question that I want to ask is very close to that of Pastor Jeffrey. I've seen that, yes, we have speakers coming now to talk about sexual abuse, sexual this, sexual that. And I've been able to see that even while they are discussing it, because some want to be really totally blunt, some people, some students there, some children, they are actually innocent. They don't even know so much. So how do we balance it that we don't end up even initiating or teaching them what they don't know? Because I have encountered with some students, they don't know it, and because of their age, they want to also go and explore. And that one is not giving me a kind of ethic. Some people don't have access to all these things, but by the time the speaker is coming to speak, and it arranges them, and then the next thing is they want to explore, they want to do research, and for the fact that they want to do all these things now, they can actually plug them into all those things. So now my question is, to you now, how do you think teachers so how do we balance this? Thank you.
Okay, we are still gathering our questions. If you still have a question to ask, the floor is still open. Please ask your questions while Dr. Deborah Ikonne record them down, please. Okay, go ahead, Pastor Edo.
You talked about focusing on your work because before drawing lessons from the Garden of Eden, you mentioned that God gave Adam the work to do to tend the garden before making Eve. Now we are some men, some friends that I know too, they are so engrossed with work that they barely have time to think about maybe dating or something else. So how do we strike that balance? That's my question. How do we strike that balance? Because we find people just focusing on their work alone. I have friends like that. And when you talk about relationship, they barely even think about it. As if it doesn't exist in most cases. So how do we strike that balance? That's my question.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Edo. The floor is still open. Let's make it down to 5:30. Any other person with questions?
Brother, talk with listening. Off waiting. I've already turned off the video since.
Any other person, please?
Video, audio, everything is off, so you can serve and let us be.
Okay. In the absence of none, Dr. Deborah Ikonne, you have the floor to answer the question.
Okay, thank you for the questions. The questions that have been asked are very germane, really. And then I've categorized them together. Some questions seem repetitive. So I think I'll address the one on sexual education for children. When you begin to talk to children about sex, how do you? And then someone else asked, how can parents or teachers, teach children, about sex, so you don't teach the wrong things. I was it last year? Yes, I think the beginning of the section, I was invited to a school for their colloquium, the beginning of a session to speak with teachers and administrators on how to, teach children sex education. Sex education is very sensitive. I said it earlier that it's age appropriate. If you do not know how to teach it, you might teach the wrong things, you might send the wrong messages, you might even trigger someone to begin to explore. Like I think that's I think it's Global, I can see that asked that. So one has to be very careful on how you teach it. I tell people that if you do not know how to teach, even parents, some parents, teach the wrong thing. They do not even know how to teach it. Some of our parents then will say, if a man touches your body, you would get pregnant. If you don't allow anybody to touch you, okay. And if they want to ask you who you're dating or who you're going out with, they'll ask who is calling you. So some wrong ways that parents teach these things can also trigger children, because children is like really inquisitive. So if you are not ready to teach them, if you do not know how to teach them, how the appropriate way to teach, you might be doing the wrong things. You might not be doing yourself justice. I tell parents to get knowledge. Get knowledge. As teachers of young people, as parents, get knowledge on how to raise these young people. It's not enough that you're an adult. An adult does not make you, an embodiment of all knowledge. You need to learn these things. Okay. So the question on what age do we start to teach children? From zero. From age 0, you can begin to teach a child on sex education. It depends. You need to know what to teach such child. You begin to, create emotional security for that child. Which includes caring for the child, playing with the child, singing songs of affirmation and praises for the child. From age 0, you can begin to create that emotional security. Then begin to teach the child self-identity. Self-identity is very important. Teach them self-affirmations. I love you. I love that you are a girl like mommy. I'm glad that you're a boy like daddy. Teach self-identity to children, to a baby, to a child. Once they can hear you. In fact, children actually listen to you. Babies listen. I have a baby right now, a baby of 4 months. And when I'm talking to her, you see her responding, they make sounds. They actually are listening to you. They watch what you're doing. You create that emotional security. You hug them, make them feel special, make them, feel secured, in their person. Then teach them self-identity. Then, as they grow up, 1 year, 2 years, teach them proper names for their genitals. People begin to teach different things. Instead of calling the penis or the vagina, you call it another name. It's wrong. Teach them the right names, the appropriate names for those genitals. If you don't teach them, they will hear it outside. Teach them the appropriate. There are different things to teach a child from age 0. So, like I said, it's a whole topic. It's a different topic on its own. So you teach from age 0 if you want to teach your child, and it's good that you acquire the appropriate knowledge to be able to give sex education to different children. Like I said earlier that I spoke with children between 6 to 9. It was a physical meeting, 6 to 9. I had to tailor that presentation to suit their age. And then the next time when I was invited to speak with children between 9 to 20, I had to tailor it to suit the people I'm talking to, the audience I'm talking to. And then speaking with adults today, I had to also, make sure that I'm addressing single men, married men. There are different situations. So one has to acquire knowledge and know the appropriate ways to be able to teach. So if teachers and parents want to learn, they can, learn from the appropriate source. I teach teachers, like I said, I've gone to a school that has secondary and primary schools together. I taught the teachers on how to take on sex education for their pupils. Okay, so yes, from age 0 you can take on sex education. Another question: how do you Okay, so let me take another question. There's another question on children I'm looking for. How do you get young people that have started? There's something on how do you get young people who have already engaged, who have started, engaging in sexual activity? How do you get them to stop? Like I said, sex education starts from zero. So once you've gotten it wrong, these children begin to learn a lot of things. You need to equip them even before they go out. The children will not be with you forever. They go to school. Even my children, of ages 2, 3, go to school. So they meet different people, but you need to equip them from home. So once they have, they've gone out, they're not well equipped, they've engaged with people, engage with other people, and they've learned wrong habits. Some of them actually pick those habits from home. They see their parents doing the wrong things. They see their parents, some parents don't train boundaries. Their children can dress up in front of their children. We see some mothers who dress up in front of their male children, exposing the child to the wrong things, sending the wrong things to the child, the mind of the child. And so some others also engage in sexual activity. Some couples, some married couples, engage in sexual activities in front of their children. So they watch the wrong things, pornography or movies that have sexual scenes, and the children are there watching. So when the child goes out, they begin to explore all that they've seen. So how do you correct those things? You need to go back to the drawing board. From the home needs to be corrected. Those things that have been done wrong, those things that the child is exposed to that are not supposed to be exposed to should be corrected, and the child needs to be counseled by the right person, and then teaching the child to engage in positive habits, for leisure, right things that the child can do. It's difficult, like I said, sexual and pleasure-based habits are difficult to stop, but by consistently teaching the child the right things, replacing the negative habits that they have learned with the right things, to make the child to believe that, and then with prayer as well. Okay, I think that also relates with an adult who is there's a question on an adult who is active and has been sexually active and then marries an inactive partner. How can they manage it? It's not going to be difficult. I also said that they begin to have unrealistic sexual demands, something that I do not know how to do. But because we are sexually active, begin to demand a lot of things is not easy at all. That's why the intention of God is that two people who do not know, who have not been sexually active, come together to marry. So how can they manage by the grace of God? Person who do not know who have never engaged in sexual demands, and pray for God's wisdom. God help me to know how to. You created sex. Help me to be able to satisfy my husband or my wife, in this aspect, and then begin to be open to learn. Be open to learning, sexual activity or in ways that can satisfy your partner, your spouse. Okay, and then if I think there's a question that is even opposing this when someone asked that two people who have never engaged in sexual activity before, how can they cope? How can they learn? Where will they learn it from? The question I want to ask you now is that where did Adam and Eve learn how to have sex? I said from the beginning that God created sex and He created it for married couples. The God who has created sex will definitely give you that knowledge. Of course, because knowledge has increased, we have a lot of things available, knowledge here and there. You can seek knowledge, you can Google, you can listen to the right thing. The right people, we have wholesome. There are things on social media that I follow. Wholesome sex, godly sexual habits with couples, following the right people, not secular world, because when you get your knowledge, the source of your knowledge matters a great deal. So when you get your knowledge matters. So if you want to learn sex between godly people, follow the right people. To learn that. Follow professionals. Follow godly people who talk on sex between married couples. There are a couple of them on social media that you can follow, and they teach couples on how to have sex. I can mention it. So one of them is Ill All Right on Facebook, and a couple of them, you can reach me to get, if you need, names of people you can follow to learn how to have sex, how to go about it between you and your spouse. Okay, if you don't have knowledge, but take note that because it has been created by God, it comes to you naturally. It comes to you naturally. It's very good if both parties have never engaged in sex before. You begin to learn yourselves, learn what appeals to each other. You learn what appeals to your wife, the wife learns what appeals to the husband. You begin to gradually understand yourselves and your body makeup and how you can, penetration is not taught. I don't think you need to learn how to penetrate. It happens. You feel that sexual organ. It happens. It's natural. Animals even engage in sex without going to school for it. So do not bother yourself about I need to learn it. I need to get do not bother yourself so much about that. But if you want to get knowledge, you can get knowledge. Make sure you get knowledge from the right source. Okay? I don't know if I'm answering the question that I've been asked. The questions are maybe. Alright, there's a question about how sexual identity, children who have the wrong identity, they are girls, want to become boys, especially in the Western world, is not so much here in Nigeria. Okay, that's why I talked about sexual identity being key in teaching children sex education. Who are you? You need to understand yourself. Sexual identity is very important. It's a foundation in learning in any sex education for children. Teach them who they are. Let them know who they are. Help them to be comfortable in who they are. If you're a girl, be comfortable that you're a girl. If you're a boy, be comfortable that you're a boy. You cannot become an animal. You're made in the image of God. Okay? You cannot. You are being made in the image of God means that of God, you can do things, you can be creative, you can rationalize things that animals cannot do. And God from the beginning created, he said he made them male and female. Male and female, there's no male and female to get married. He didn't say male and a male, female and a female, or a female and an animal. That those things are wrong. That they are not justifiable at all. So really, once you begin to talk people out of that thing, begin to use the right things to teach them, right source, to teach these children, they begin to understand that, hey, what have I been thinking about all this while? Most times it's because people have really not talked to those children. The first thing that they were able to, the first conversation they were able to get was on, how whatever you feel like you can be, it began from the home, and sometimes when you go out and you begin to interact with wrong things, you need to, as parents, as teachers of young people, become intentional in teaching young people on their sexual identity, on who they are, on being comfortable in themselves. Alright, and if they've gotten the wrong knowledge, you need to, once someone has gotten the wrong thing, the only way you can do it is to reverse that thing, that knowledge that they have, erase it by teaching them the right things, replacing that wrong knowledge with the right thing, and then with prayers. And if it's gotten out of hand, you need to seek professional counselors. If it's sex therapists, you get a sex therapist, especially if it's an adult that does not know how to control. I think there's a question on that. That does not know how to control their sexual urges. Get a sex therapist. After you see a counselor, what do? Just like someone who is addicted in drugs, addicted in alcohol. What do? After you've gone through counseling and therapy? You need to begin to practice what you've been taught. Practice the right habits. Practice positive habits. Consistently, constantly. I'm not saying that you will not fall. There are people who fail in the Bible. David failed a lot of times, but then again, there is Joseph who did not fall to sexual temptation. You can do it. You can begin to tell yourself positively that you can do it. I can overcome sex. I can overcome sexual immorality. Whatever sin it is, God can cleanse it and give you clean slate, make you pure. You begin again, start all over again to do the right things. And the person who has how someone who has who has been sexually immoral now wants to get married even though the person has repented, how can the person cope? So long as God has forgiven the person and you're willing to, you love the person, then you can go. So God will help you. God will give you the grace to be able to, love yourselves and make your marriage blissful. So long as God is in it, you have nothing to worry about. Yes, there will be challenges, but He will give you the grace and the mercy to be able to overcome all of the challenges that you face. Alright, I don't know if I've answered all the questions. Is there any question I've not answered?
You have cleared all now.
Okay.
Thank you very
One
much.
last one, create a balance. Focus on your work. I said, single men should focus on their work. How to create strike a balance when someone begins to be so focused on their work and not able to, have time to, seek a relationship. Yes, having a balanced life is very key. Doing something in excess is not good. I said, get busy, get something doing. That is what I emphasize on. I didn't say you should just focus on the work. In fact, the gender I am asked to focus on your work is the female gender. To focus on building yourself. Do not be so keen in going to search for a man who will marry you. But for a man, you are the one who is going to search. God has made it that way. Naturally, that a man is the seeker. Okay, so, but first, you have to get something doing. Get your hands on something. Get something doing. Do not be a lazy person. Do not be idle. And then what you're looking for is the relationship. The first thing you should do is get something doing. But you are the one to also seek out a relationship. You have time to relate with people. Create a balanced life. So social life is part of life. Your social life is part of a holistic life. Do not leave that angle. Like there are people who are very intelligent, but they are not sociable. They don't know how to relate with people. They don't know how to talk to a woman. They don't know how to converse, communicate. That is wrong. You need to build your social life as you build your spiritual and intellect. You need to balance it. Alright, I think I've answered all the questions now. Any other question?
Okay, Dr. Ikonne is asking for any other question. Is there any?
Is there any question I've not answered?
Answered all questions. You have done justice to all questions, and I believe that those of us that pose those questions, we have received our right answers, and at the same time, referees to get the right places to get knowledge from, and of course, do better to make sure that we are on the safe place. Okay, this time around it's time for appreciation. I will call on in charge of this ministry, leads of orphan ministry, and the person of Pastor Jeffrey Ebumeme, and he will do the vote of thanks. And the person in charge of leadership role in loan ministry, that's Mr. Bongret Wankwo, will give us the closing prayer. He is the one that the Google Meet is identified as global. He equally runs a ministry called Global Teachers Ministry. So he will give us the closing prayer. But before then, I would like us to equally welcome those of us that are joining us that are not loan members. Because I said earlier on that Dr. Ikonne shared the link to a lot of people that's of course, are lover of knowledge and needs to be enlightened concerning sexual So Loan Ministry would like to welcome you to Loan Ministry. Having you around tonight is great for us. And we love to pray that God will continue to be with us and bless us and give us the right knowledge, especially this end time when men are running through and through for knowledge, and knowledge is everywhere, and at the same time everybody don't know anything. So we pray that God will be with us as we learn under the tutelage of those He has bestowed knowledge upon. Equally for those of our friends in youth ministry, I'm talking about those that joined us because I shared the link on the youth ministry for West Africa, East Africa, and SDA Master Guide online training. Those of you that are joining